Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the reigning NBA MVP and Finals MVP of the Oklahoma City Thunder. SGA's game is built on elite footwork and a deadly mid-range package that constantly draws comparisons to the late, great Kobe Bryant. And at the point guard position, he's just not a smooth scorer. He's one of the best ball handlers in the league with a sometimes controversial but undeniably effective ability to generate free throw attempts all night long. But his dominance isn't confined to offense. SGA is a relentless perimeter defender and a major driving force behind the league's best defense in OKC. So, after a ton of requests, today we're recreating the two-way league MVP inside of the NBA 2K26 My Player Builder, a build inspired by everything that makes SGA one of the most unstoppable players in basketball. And like I always say, I'll never play the meta or make meta builds. So if you do enjoy more of a realistic play style in NBA 2K, consider hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like on the video, and in the comment section, let me know what NBA player you would like to see me bring to life next. And so here we go. Today, we're finally realistically recreating the NBA 2K26 cover athlete, the league MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And in my opinion, of course, this is going to be the most realistic Shai build that you can make within the NBA 2K26 My Player limitations. And just like all my builds, I have designed this build around the cap breaker system. So on day one, even if you don't have any cap breakers, you will have access to all of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander animations in the game. And then of course, if you do have cap breakers like me, I am going to be designing this around the cap breaker system. So there will be plenty of thresholds that you can meet later on with your cap breakers, so it never feels like your SGA build goes out of date. And so here we go, diving in. Obviously, we're going to be at the point guard position. We want to make sure that we look like Shai out there on the court and play like him. So first, we're going to be taking on the height, his listed height, that is going to be at 6'6". For his weight, we're going to be bumping this all the way down to 192, and at 192 pounds, that is going to give us access to this balanced body type right there. That's personally what I think looks most like Shai. And then lastly, the wingspan. Shai's listed wingspan is at 7 feet. He has a very, very long wingspan, but obviously in the My Player Builder, the longer you go on your wingspan, the lower your shooting stats are. So with Shai being such an elite mid-range shooter, I am going to be taking his wingspan down just by 1 inch. So we still do have that really long wingspan, but at the very least, we can eventually cap break our mid-range up to an 89, and that is going to give us that set shot specialist on the gold level, which is a very important badge when it comes to being a good shooter in this game. It really helps out your green window on those set shots. So I want to make sure that we are able to play with a long wingspan out there to help us on the defensive end of things. But yeah, we're going to be bumping that down to a 6'11". And so now that we are going to be looking like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the court now, we want to make sure that we could play like him on day one and have access to all of his animations out there. So the first animation that we're going to be tackling is going to be his layup style in the game. That is locked behind an 87 overall driving layup. So we're going to be bumping that up to an 87. Next up, he does have his own dunk style in the game, which is pretty cool. So his dunk package, it is locked behind a 70 driving dunk as well as a 65 on the vertical. So we're going to be bumping that up right there. And then moving over to his signature jumper, his go-to shot, his pull-up, everything like that. We're going to be able to unlock all of those at an 87 overall mid-range. And then moving over to the passing accuracy, his own passing style, it is unlocked at an 83 overall rating. And then his dribble moves, that is going to be locked behind an 84 ball handle, as well as an 84 speed with ball. And then last but not least, we're going to be making sure that we have his motion style on day one, that is going to be locked behind a 76 on the agility. So now we have access to all of SGA's animations on day one with this build, and we are at an 88 overall. So up next, we're going to be filling in this build so we can play like Shai, but also it is going to be optimized for future cap breakers. So here we go. We're going to be starting out with this speed. We're going to be at an 85 speed. I honestly feel like this is the lowest you probably want to be with a point guard. So we're going to be putting that up to an 85. And then for the agility, like I said, Shai, he is a two-way player, as we all know. OKC's defense is just insane. We want to make sure that Shai is insane on defense as well on this build. So we're going to be bumping that agility up to an 88. Now, Shai, he's not the biggest player, you know what I mean? He's pretty skinny, lean guy, but he is able to play through contact. So we want to bump this strength up to a 67, and that is going to give us access to that physical finisher badge on the silver level. And then last but not least, the vertical Shai. He is a very good athlete, but he's really not a guy that plays above the rim. So I'm going to save some attribute points personally on this realistic Shai build, leave that vertical at a 65 overall. Now moving over to the close shot, as you guys know, if you've seen some of my builds before, I really do like close shot in the game. It widens out that green window on your floaters and everything like that. And also when you just pump fake down low in the paint, get people off the ground, it helps you finish those standing layups down there. So we're going to be bumping this up to to an 81 overall, and you guys are going to see why once we get to the cap breaker sheet, why I decided to stop at this 81. And then moving over to the drive and layup, just so we don't have to put a cap breaker into this stat later, we're just going to be bumping this up by 1 to an 88. And as you guys see, that does give us float game on the gold level. And like I said earlier, Shai's game, it's not based off playing above the rim. So personally, I'm going to be saving some attributes on the drive and dunk, leaving it at a 70 overall rating. Shai, I'm sure he's caught some posters out there before, but overall, when you evaluate Shai's game, it's probably not going to be, oh yeah, he's dunking on people on a regular basis. So we're going to be doing the same on our build, saving some attributes there. Now moving over to the post control, Shai at the point guard position, he is very good at playing out of the post. So we're going to be taking this up to a 70 overall rating. That's going to give us access to that post fade phenom badge on the silver level. And of course, with a max +1 or a max +2 later, you can increase that. Now moving over to the shooting stats, we're going to be leaving this mid range on an 87 overall. As you guys see, that does give us all the shooting badges on silver. With a max +2 on shifty shooter, we can bump that up to a Hall of Fame level, of course. And then dead eye, set shot specialist, post fade phenom, whatever it is, you can decide to put a max +1 on those. And now moving on to a 3-point shot, if this was previous years, we could probably leave this pretty low, but this year seems like every year of his career, he's just getting a better 3-point shot on him. So we're going to be taking this up to an 80 overall rating. That only puts us 3 cap breakers away from an 83 if you are someone that likes that bronze limitless range badge. But personally, I really like this 80 overall rating for that sharpshooter takeover that we're going to have on this build. It really helps us get more ankle breakers out there that I really want to make sure that we can get on our Shai build. And now moving on to the free throw, most definitely the most controversial part of Shai's game. He's really good at drawing contact and selling contact. Now the free throw stat, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to draw more free throws out there. The only thing really a high free throw is going to do is obviously it's going to increase your green window, and then whenever there's a transition take foul or a defensive 3 seconds in the key, you'll be able to shoot the technical foul free throw. So personally on this build, we're going to stop at an 82 overall rating. These are going to be very easy to green out there, and sometimes you will be the chosen free throw shooter. But if you personally want to be able to go to the free throw line more often on those transition take fouls and stuff like that, you can obviously just take down a stat. Free throws pretty cheap, but 82, we're going to be able to green plenty out there. Now moving over to the passing accuracy, obviously Shai, he is a shoot first kind of player, but he is also really good at distributing the ball. We want to bring up this passing accuracy just up to an 84. As you guys see, that is going to give us versatile visionary on the gold level, and that's just going to help us complete some more difficult passes out there on the court when we're running the point guard position. Now moving over to the ball handle, the minimum we want to go with on this is going to be an 86 overall rating. That's going to unlock his ankle assassin on the silver level, really be able to catch some more ankle breakers out there. But without a doubt, Shai, he is one of the best ball handlers in the league. So I feel like bare minimum we want on this build is going to be an 86 ball handle. And then for the speed with ball, another expensive stat for point guards, we're going to be leaving that at 84 overall level. I really do feel like silver lightning launch is perfectly fine. If you want to throw a max +1 on that, bump it up to the gold level, you can do that. And of course, we are going to only be 2 cap breakers away from an 86, which would give us gold lightning launch. Now moving over to the defense, Shai, he is a 2-way player, so we want to make sure that we have that on this build. So we're going to be going with a 60 interior, and then for the perimeter defense, we're going to be stopping at an 82. But what I personally did on my Shai build is I put some cap breakers into our perimeter defense, and is all the way up to a 91 overall rating. You guys are going to see that in just a second. And now moving down to the steal rating, another expensive stat in the builder, we're going to be stopping at a 58, but you guys are going to see exactly why in just a second when we get to the cap breaker sheet. And then moving down to the block rating to help us with those contests out there on the perimeter, and then also obviously in the paint, we're going to be stopping at a 74, and that is going to give us paint patroller on the bronze level. And then last but not least, Shai, he is able to rebound the ball out there, so we're going to be taking this defensive rebound up to a 60 overall rating, and that's going to give us rebound chaser on the bronze level. But yeah, that's going to be it for the base attributes on our Shai build. As you guys see, you're going to be able to play some defense out there. You're not going to be insane or anything, but 82, it's definitely good starting out. And obviously with cap breakers, once we get to the cap breaker sheet, you guys are going to see we're going to be able to take some of these stats much higher. But now moving over to the shades of and the archetype name, I never make my build based off the shades because of 2 reasons. 1, it doesn't change anything about your build. This is literally the only time you're going to see these shades of. But 2, you're going to be putting cap breakers in your build eventually, which obviously would change the shades of later. So that's why I couldn't care less about the shades. But the archetype name, we are called a mid-range menace. My build personally, after putting cap breakers into the defense, it is called a 2-way mid-range menace. and I do think that is a perfect name for a realistic Shai build. So starting out, I'm going to show you guys where I would suggest putting some cap breakers in to start out, and then future cap breaker spots that are also available on this build. I will also be telling you guys exactly what thresholds you can be going for in the future. So here we go. Starting out, as you guys can see, I did go ahead and throw 2 cap breakers into our mid-range, bump it up to an 89 overall level, and that's going to give us access to set shot specialists on the gold level. Now moving over to our perimeter defense, as you guys can see, we have bumped that all the way up to a 93 overall level with 5 cap breakers, and that's going to be giving us access to all those perimeter defensive badges on the gold level, which is very nice on this build. And then also you guys see, I also did decide to put 5 cap breakers into the steal rating, which settles us at an 85, and that's going to give us access to interceptor on the gold level. If I was going to have a Shai build out here, I wanted to make sure that we can be elite on the offensive end as well as the defensive end, and I feel like we're able to accomplish that with that 85 steal rating. Now moving down, personally, I did decide to put one of my playmaking specialization cap breakers into strength. That is going to give us access to that immovable forcer on the bronze level. Once again, it's not a necessary badge, this is just personal preference. Now moving on, some future thresholds that you could be hitting with this build if you don't want to put them all in on your defense, all on your steal rating like we did. You can also put 1 in on your close shot, bump that up to an 84 overall rating, and that is going to give you Paint Prodigy on the silver level, which would be really nice. Moving down a little bit more to the 3-point shot, if you do want that limitless range on the bronze level, you can go ahead and throw 3 cap breakers into your 3-point shot. And then for the playmaking, if you really want bailout on the bronze level, personally, I probably won't go for it, but if you want, you could throw 1 into your passing accuracy. That would be bumped up to an 86. At 85 is all you need for bailout. So in the builder, if you personally think that you want to have that bailout badge eventually, you can just lower that pass and accuracy by 1 and then put the extra attributes into your free throw. But for the speed with ball, eventually I will put 2 cap breakers into there. That'll bump it up to an 86 overall rating, and that will give us lightning launch on the gold level. And after that, any extra cap breakers that I'm going to be getting throughout the year, I'll probably just be throwing them into agility and speed, which is obviously helpful on the defensive end. And now I slowly am working my way up through the season level, but as you guys can see, I have not unlocked the max +2 slots just yet. So I'm going to be throwing a screenshot up on the screen eventually of the badges that we can have with our max +2s and max +1s. You guys see, eventually we can have that float game on the legend level, as well as shifty shooter on the Hall of Fame level, and that is going to be crucial in recreating Shai's game from the mid-range. Now moving over to the build specialization, personally, I went with the playmaking specialization just because I've been grinding this out all year. I probably won't be grinding out another specialization just because this is such a long grind. So when it comes to the Shai build, whatever specialization that you have personally already made progress on, I suggest just sticking with that. Now moving over to our takeover, like I said, I wanted us to at least have an 83 ball so we can have access to that sharpshooter takeover. It really does help you get some more ankle breakers out there on the court. And then for the stats that we're going to be boosting up with that sharpshooter takeover, we're going to be boosting up our 3 ball all the way up to an 85. We're going to be boosting the mid-range up to a 95 overall rating, and then the speed with ball as well is going to be boosted up to a 90 when we do have our takeover active. And then last but not least, all of the animations that are going to help us play like Shai out there on the court, we have access to on day 1. As you guys can see, we have Shai in every single possible category that he is available. Personally, what I'm running with now is I am running with this Jamal Murray floater for the post fade. I know he does have his own post fade in the game, it just hasn't been released yet. So once eventually it does get released in the game, I'll definitely be bringing some gameplay using that. And then for the triple threat style, personally, I'm going with pro step back. I'm using Devin Booker. I've heard really good things about that one because Shai doesn't have his own step back in the game, at least right now. And then for the spin move, we're going with Terry Rozier. But you guys, there it is, the most realistic Shai build, in my opinion, that you could put together given the builder limitations in NBA 2K26. And up next for the Shai builders, of course, taking him out to the random rec, recreating his game realistically out there. So if you guys are ready to see that, you want to see more realistic gameplays and builds like this, definitely do consider hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already, dropping a like on this video, and in the comment section, let me know what NBA player you would like to see me bring to life next. And if you did make it to this point in the video, I just want to say thank you so much. Your guys' interaction and engagement on these videos, it really does make a huge difference. So I greatly do appreciate all of that. But yeah, man, that's going to do for this one. So I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.